Good evening and welcome to Chesapeake Public Schools Family Empowerment Webinar presented by the Office of Family and Community Engagement, or FACE. I am Laura Lerf, one of the FACE specialists. Our office, which is under the Department of Engagement, seeks to create meaningful partnerships in order to inspire, engage, and empower families, educators, and community agencies to support the initiatives of Chesapeake Public Schools. We are typically available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and can be reached by our main phone line at 757-482-5923 or face at cpschools.com. We are excited to offer our families a course catalog entitled Peak Parent University that outlines all of our events for the school year. You can also catch up on pre-recorded webinars, access a wealth of educational resources, and make community connections to promote your family's well-being. Please visit cpschools.com and search Peak Parent University. We thank you for joining us tonight for Staying Safe Online, the Dangers of Social Media. We are excited to have joining us tonight a panelist from the Chesapeake Police Department. Before we begin, I want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded to share on our Chesapeake Public Schools YouTube channel. Participants' cameras and the chat feature are disabled. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please use the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. We will answer all questions by the conclusion of tonight's presentation. We would also like to make sure parents are aware that parts of this presentation may not be suitable for children. And now we would like to introduce our panelist. Tonight, we have Detective Brian Furbish from the Chesapeake Police Department. Welcome, Detective. Thank you for being here. And at this time, I will turn the program over to you.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Like she said, I'm Detective Furbish. I've been with the Chesapeake Police Department for just shy of 14 years. I'm currently assigned to our Internet Crimes Against Children unit. I started as an investigator, and now I'm more primarily a digital forensic expert. But I'm probably the most, savvy when it comes to talking to groups. So that's why they asked me if I could do this webinar today. So I have a little presentation for you, but I'll be sure to answer your questions either in the middle or at the end. But it's really just a brief overview of things to look out for online and tips and tricks for parents to monitor and keep their kids safe. So let's begin. All right. So the biggest thing that I find in our investigations is, it all starts at home. So communicate with your kids, let them know that dangers exist on social media. When I was a kid growing up, I was taught like stranger danger when you're at the mall or at the park. If a stranger comes up to you, come find your parent, stay away from the stranger. But nowadays, and why we're people like that going to parks is because that's where the kids were. But nowadays, kids are online a lot more than they used to be. So that's where the predators are going. They're going onto all the apps and everything that the kids use. So just let them know that, hey, those people exist on social media because that's their people that they're targeting. So they're going to go to where the kids are hanging out. Now, there's a great resource to learn more. It's called netsmarts.org. And at the end of the presentation, I'm going to have a list of links and everything for you. But this is a great resource that's hosted by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. It has sections devoted to giving information to parents about internet safety, but it also has sections that are specifically tailored to children, and not just that, but different age groups, all the way from like pre-K on up to high school. They have things like cartoons for like the younger kids to teach them about some of the dangers on social media. And then they also have testimonials for the older kids so that, when a parent or somebody tells their kid, hey, there's, predators online, and you get that eye roll, you can play them a video from some kids that are their own age that were victimized. That way you have another 14-year-old or 15-year-old telling them like, hey, when your parents are telling you to stay safe and look out for this stuff online, they're telling the truth because it happened to me and this is what happened and this is how you can keep yourself safe. but it's an excellent, excellent resource. And that's where I get a lot of my information as well. Now, a big thing, it kind of seems like common sense, but monitor your child's phone and their internet activity. And also, one big thing is know the password to your child's phone. I can't tell you how many cases we get where a parent saw something on their kid's phone or heard from somebody else that they sent something that was inappropriate. And then they file a police report, they bring us the phone, and I say, okay, well, I'll download it and take a look and find out exactly what occurred. What's the passcode? And the parent says, I don't know. My opinion, if your child has a phone, but you don't know the passcode or they refuse to give you the passcode, they should not have that phone. That's just a big safety thing for me. If your kid has a phone, you have the password. If they try to change it, that phone goes away. And that's also so that you can check their phone periodically, just to do spot checks, just to, the same way that you would check to make sure they're cleaning their room and stuff like that, just to make sure that, there's nothing on there that's inappropriate or concerning. And a lot of phones have built-in parental controls. A lot of people don't know this, but iPhones have excellent built-in parental controls on their device. And as I said before, I'll have some links and everything that you can, at the end of the presentation, that you can go to where it explains it a little more in depth on how to set that up. But iPhones have, in their settings, they have a section called content and privacy restrictions. So you as a parent, if you also have an iPhone, you can set up a family account where you say, hey, I'm mom, my phone is the parent phone, and then this phone and this phone number is the child phone. And you can set it up to monitor activity, restrict apps, and you could turn off features temporarily. There's a detective, he just got promoted, but when he was in our unit, he had his parental controls set up so if his kids tried to download a new app, it would send a notification to his phone first, and he would say like, oh, well, let me see what this app is. And he'd be like, oh, there's no way I'm letting my kids download this. And he could just hit deny and they wouldn't be able to download it. He also used it for like timeout, like if they didn't do their homework or something or else, he could kind of put them in timeout by disabling the internet on their phone for a certain period of time. So he'd be like, you can call me, your mom at 911 for the next hour, but you're not going to be able to use any of your apps or the internet. So he used it also as sort of like a timeout feature. But Samsung and Google, they have similar built-in parental controls. And Microsoft has one called Family Safety, which you can put on phones as well as computers. And there are also several third-party applications that do similar things. Now, one thing to keep in mind, though, while these parental controls are great and they're always doing improvements and updates to them, many children actively try to find and share ways with each other to circumvent these controls so that, if their parents are checking their phones periodically and they have this software on there, that they can try to figure out tips and tricks to not really disable the parental controls, but sort of backdoor around them so they can access and do things with that their parents can't monitor. And that's, if you go online and just Google it, you'll have a lot of links, some of which don't work on how to get around these things and some which very well could. So it's something to look out for. And that's why I recommend that even if you have these controls enabled, every once in a while, take your child's phone and just flip through, monitor their activity, and just to make sure that everything's okay. And, also make it clear to your kids, like, hey, if something happens, might be a little upset, but my ultimate goal is to keep you safe. So please don't feel like you can't talk to me if something does happen. And many social media sites, they also allow you to create a parent account, and you can then create child accounts underneath your parent one so that you can set things up like screen time limitations, who can see your child's account and what they post, who they can be friends with, and what they're allowed to share publicly or privately. Most major social media sites like Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram have been putting these protections in place, and more are doing them like every day. And of course, more and more apps are being created every day as well. I've included some links to the most popular apps at the end of the presentation that tells you what their parental controls are and what they're set up to be like. And NetSmarts is a great resource that if you start hearing or your kid asks like, hey, I want to go on this new app called House Party, that don't let your kids use House Party, by the way. It's not the worst, but it's very hard to monitor their activity on there. But you can go on like NetSmarts and it will tell you like, hey, this is what this app does, what Snapchat does, what TikTok does, what Instagram does, and all the capabilities and what you can do. It's just a great resource for stuff like that. And if you find an app on your child's device and you don't know what it is, do some research, and then determine yourself whether or not you feel it is or isn't safe. Or you could always give us a call over here at the police department, like, hey, what do you think? Is this a good app? I've never heard of it before. I don't mind answering those calls. And uninstall it if needed, and use the parental controls if you have them set up to block it so they won't be able to reinstall. And there's just more and more being created every day. Some apps are pretty redundant, like essentially, it has a new name, but it does exactly what Snapchat does, but it doesn't have all the parental controls because it's new. And that's why kids are like kind of flocking to them and everything. So it's impossible to know them all because they're being created like crazy. But you just got to try to stay on top of it as best you can. And predators are everywhere online. Big question I get is, what apps are predators on? Like, what are the apps that I shouldn't let my child use? They go to all the social media apps that children use. They learn the lingo, and predators are very good at what they do because they treat grooming children as their full-time or their part-time job. And they do a lot of research. I usually tell kids, like, how you study before a test and you make sure that you know the material so that you're prepared and ready? The predators put the same amount of work, if not more, into manipulating children. They are experts at pretending that they are another child, and they know exactly what to say to make a child feel friendship and love. And most children online have friends that they've never met in real life. They don't know their real name, but they speak with them every day online. A lot of times it's perfectly innocent. They just connect with somebody in like a group about a video game, music, TV shows, things that they like to chat about, because it's very easy to make new friends and everything online. And a lot of times they aren't predators. It's just somebody, it's just another child or someone that is in the Minecraft or Roblox and everything. But the problem is that there are also predators that do their research by playing these same games, watching the same shows, because it makes it easier for them to groom children because they build up that friendship. I've talked with like cool guy Steve 50 times in the last week. He knows everything that I know about this game or this show. We've been playing online together, so I feel comfortable with this person, which is what they're trying to do by grooming the kids, to make them feel like, hey, I'm not just a stranger online, I'm your friend, cool guy Steve. And then that's when the requests and everything start coming in. From a predator's perspective, a child is nothing more than someone that can produce a product that they desire, which can include nude photos and videos of children, arranging meetups to sexually assault children, but also gaining information about a child's friends so that they can groom them as well. They might, in the middle of the grooming process, they might add that child as their friend and say, hey, do you have anyone else that also likes this show or this, that, and the other? And they'll say, oh, yeah, I got a friend named John, a friend named Stacy. Oh, okay, well, I'll tell you what, give me their usernames. I'll send them a friend request. Can you send them a message to add me as a friend as well? And that also builds up this group that they can, start chatting with and grooming. And a lot of times it makes it easier for them when they send out friend requests and they get accepted, because most apps, if you send a friend request to somebody, it will tell you how many friends you have in common. And you're more likely to add a new person to your friends list if you look and say, oh, I don't know who this person is, but they're friends with 10 people that I know from school. So it must be somebody that we know. So they'll go ahead and hit add, and then they immediately start getting messages, and that grooming process starts up. And one big thing that we're seeing among juveniles is sexting. For those who don't know, sexting is sending, receiving, or forwarding sexually explicit messages, photographs, or videos. Primarily happens between mobile phones. It can be regular text messages, or it can also be through apps like Snapchat, Instagram, Discord, anything where you can send a message. These are reasons that I have personally been given by juveniles who were caught sexting, or why they said they did it. Yeah, a lot of times I hear, I wanted them to be my boyfriend or girlfriend. I wanted them to like me. My friends do it too. And then probably one of the worst ones was he kept asking me and asking me and asking me. I got tired of him asking and decided to just send him a picture so he'd stop bothering me. Now, this, of course, did not work, because if you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want a glass of milk. This girl said, well, I thought if I just sent him one picture, then, he would stop asking me. And we go to school together. He just kept bugging me and bugging me about it. So I sent him a picture because I thought that would just have him stop asking. And then, of course, as soon as this kid got the picture, he sends another message like, I like that picture. Can you send me another? And then her parents did a spot check of her phone, found out what was going on, reported it to us, and then I had a we'll call it a heart to heart with the other juvenile as to why this activity was not only illegal but not okay. And because a lot of children are sexting without realizing that they're committing multiple felonies. If a child creates a sexually explicit media of themselves with their phone or another device, they have committed one felony for each picture and video they have created. It doesn't even matter if they send that picture to somebody else. Just the act of taking a sexually explicit media photo of yourself, if you're a juvenile, is a felony. It is illegal. There is no exception in the code. If they send that image to another person, even if it's another child, they have just committed a second felony. That means if they take 10 pictures, they've just committed 10 felonies. If they text those 10 images to somebody else, even if it's another child, they've just committed an additional 10 felonies. And the mere act of somebody, even if they're a child, asking a juvenile, hey, can you send me a nude photo? Even if the other juvenile says, no, I'm not doing that, the child that asked for it has already committed a felony. Now, obviously, it's also illegal if adults do it as well, but we run into a lot of juveniles that think, oh, well, I'm a kid, they're a kid, so this is fine. But really, they're just committing a lot of felonies. And I should note that when it comes to sexting and things like that, our main goal when we get a report of it is to educate the children. Now, every circumstance is different, but our main goal is not to charge children with multiple felonies, but it's more so to educate them. But every situation is different. And if something egregious is happening, then we may speak with the Commonwealth about looking to charge. But that's typically in a situation where one juvenile gets a hold of a picture and sends it to everyone in their class. The mere act of like one juvenile sending it to another juvenile, it's a case by case basis, but normally it's education, notifying the parents, and also eliminating any traces of that media. And one of the most dangerous things that we're seeing arise in is cases of what's called sextortion, especially among young children, but it also happens to adults. So sextortion, this refers to using sexually explicit media of a victim as a means of forcing the child to send more sexually explicit media, money, personal information about the victim or the victim's family, or all of the above. It's basically extortion, but by getting a hold of a sexually explicit media of the victim and then holding that over their head to get more out of them. And they're counting on the child's fear to get what they want. And a typical case of sextortion essentially goes, your child is online and they get a random message from somebody who has a profile picture where they look like a supermodel. I've talked to some of the high schools and I make it very clear that supermodels are not trolling the internet to chat with juveniles. And a lot of times you can tell if someone's a bot because it looks like a stock photo. But, but typically what happens, they get a message where it says, "Hey, how's it going? You look really cute." "Oh, thanks. Hey, if you send me a naked picture, I'll send you a naked picture." And the juvenile says, "Oh, okay, well, I definitely want to see a picture of you. So here, I'll take a picture of me, send it." And they wait for the picture to come back. But that's not what happens. As soon as they send that picture, the next message they get from the other person says, "All right, you have 5 minutes to send me 10 more pictures. If you don't, I'm going to send this picture to everyone on your friends list, everyone at your school. You will never get another boyfriend or girlfriend again, and your parents and family will hate you. You have 5 minutes, get started." Or they might make the same request, but they'll say, "Give me $5,000 in the next 5 minutes to this Cash App, or I'm going to send this picture to everyone that you know." And they'll hate you forever. Go ahead, you got 5 minutes, clock's running. And they use it as a money-making thing because they're counting on the juvenile freaking out and complying. Now, do they think kids are going to have $5,000? No, but they know that that child is able to take more pictures, which just gives the person that's extorting them more to hang over their head. And the juvenile might say, like, "Well, I don't have $5,000, but I do have 100. They'll say, "All right, send me the 100. Juvenile sends it. And what happens? If you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want a glass of milk. They say, "Okay, send me another 100." Because all they're worried about is getting either as much money as they can or as much media as they can. And sometimes even personal information about a victim or a victim's family. And these cases can get very extreme because they're counting on the child's fear. There's a sad case, but it's a it's a it's an example of a sextortion case, a juvenile named Ryan Last. But he was a victim of sextortion. His parents went out of town. He was about to graduate from high school. He got a message from somebody that looked like they were a supermodel. He sent a picture. They immediately asked for money, or they said they were going to ruin his life by sending the picture, which he was in great fear of. He sent what money he had, but of course they asked for more money, and he ended up taking his own life. It was a conversation that lasted probably about an hour on the internet. And that was a very extreme case. And that's something that I never want to happen here. So that's part of the reason why we're educating and everything. And I should note that in these cases, it's very rare for that person to actually comply with their threat because children make mistakes. If they send a sexually explicit image or video and receive a threatening message of sextortion, what they should do is stop communicating with that person, block them immediately on that app, tell their parent, but don't delete their account or the messages because I want to be able to have that evidence so I can try to track down the person that was on the other end of that computer. And also make note of the date, time, and screen name of the suspect and any other identifying information. And and also make sure that if that ever were to happen with any of your children, make it very clear to them, like, "Hey, I'm glad you came to me with this. You might be a little upset, but ultimately, you're happier that your children reported it to you than they just dealt with it on their own." And also make sure that they know that the only person that really did anything wrong in that situation is whoever is on the other end of the computer, because children make mistakes. And that is an adult that is very skilled at what they're doing. But I should note that they very rarely even through with that threat, because they're not just messaging one child at a time. They are sending those messages out to hundreds, if not thousands, and seeing how many fall for it. And then of the ones who fall for it, seeing how many of those are actually going to send them money. It's actually sort of a waste of time for them to be like, oh, this person didn't send me any money, so let me go ahead and find everyone on their friends list and send the picture. They're just counting on fear. If you don't give them anything, they will just move on and try to victimize someone else. But hopefully, if we get a report of it, we can try to figure out who that other person is and take out the appropriate charges. And if anything like this, or any enticement, anything like that happens on any of these apps, you can report it right on the app. Typically, you can just say, hey, I want to report this conversation. There's usually a button for it right there. Once that happens on Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, they immediately get notified of it. They review what happened. And then what they do, all those apps, they send a report to the cybertipline.org. And that gets forwarded down to the local jurisdiction of where the victim is, but also where the suspect is. You can also make a report on cybertipline.org directly, or you can call the Chesapeake Police Department's non-emergency phone number, 757-382-6161, and make a report there, and we'll have someone come out, take an initial report, and then they'll notify us here at the ICAC unit, which stands for Internet Crimes Against Children, and then we'll take the investigation from there. And just basic do's and don'ts of online safety. Do not give out personal information. Do not give out passwords. Do not give out your family's personal information. And if someone reaches out, this is a rare one, but we have had it happen. If someone reaches out claiming to be someone that you know, usually with juveniles in real life, make sure that the person messaging is actually that person. I've had a few cases where accounts were taken over because, John got a message from his friend Steve from an account he didn't recognize saying, hey, it's Steve from school. Someone took over my Snapchat account. I've been trying to get it back, but they blocked my messages. Can you give me the password and log into your Snapchat so I can message the guy and try to get it back? They say, oh, well, sure, you're my friend. Here's my account information. And as soon as they get it, next thing they know, they get locked out of their account. So they call their friend on the phone like, hey, man, I gave you my password and everything. Why'd you lock me out of the account? And their friend has no idea what they're talking about, because it was just somebody that was doing their research and everything and, posed as a friend so they could get a hold of that child's account. And now they can start messaging all of that child's friends as though that they, are this other child, as a way of trying to victimize and get information and extort other people. And one of the biggest don'ts of online safety is do not even create sexually explicit images and videos of yourself. I've had a couple of cases where people said that they were being sextorted because someone claimed that they had an image or a video, even adults. I've had adults where they sent money because they didn't want them to go to their work. And then they said, here's the weird thing. I've never taken a picture like that of myself. And I said, okay, well, did they show you the picture they had of you? No, they just told me they had one. Well, if you never took a picture, that probably means that person was just bluffing in order to get money from you. So the biggest thing is just never create that image or video, and then there won't be that image or video. And for illegal activity, I touched on it earlier, but most applications have a report button that's right there in the app. You can go to cybertipline.org. It's right there on their homepage, how to report an incident. And all those reports will get funneled down to the local police departments involved. But even if you report it on the app and the cyber tip line, you can still also report it directly to us at the Chesapeake Police Department. And that way we can start on it a little sooner before we get that cyber tip line report. And here are just some of the links and everything and stuff I went over earlier in the presentation. Cybertipline.org has a lot of resources, but also how to report any sort of exploitation online. There's a great website for parents right there, the connectmissingkids.org/learn. They have over a dozen free online classes open to the general public. They're at your own pace, and you can learn a lot more about what we've talked about today and a bunch of other topics that we don't have time to go over today. But it's a great resource. Netsmarts.org, great source of information for parents and children on internet safety. And then I have some links here for the parental controls for phones, iPhone, Samsung, Microsoft. And then some of the biggest apps, Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. I put links to their parental controls there. But a lot of apps have them. So if you just search Discord parental control, it'll navigate you to that page if it exists. And if you need to make a police report, just call our non-emergency phone number, 757-382-6161. Obviously 911 if you need us to get there quick, fast, and in a hurry. But generally with these types of cases, if it's some guy who might be in North Dakota on the other side of the computer, you can just contact us at the non-emergency phone number. And don't worry, someone is still going to come and speak with you. They just won't be necessarily becoming lights and sirens. Well, that's it. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much, Detective Furbish. And I think we can leave the screen up for another minute. So please feel free to take a screenshot of the links. We will also be emailing these links out along with the webinar recording in the next week or so to everyone who registered. But again, please feel free to take a screenshot if you want to of these links so that you have them for your reference. And thank you so much to Detective Furbish for your wealth of information. So should you have any questions about tonight's webinar, or if you need any additional information or resources, please feel free to contact us at face@cpschools.com. So it looks like we do not have any questions. So this will conclude our webinar, Staying Safe Online, the Dangers of Social Media. Again, I'd like to thank Detective Furbish for sharing information with us this evening. And remember that this webinar has been recorded and will be uploaded to the Chesapeake Public Schools YouTube channel within the next week. And thank you for joining us this evening. And remember, families and communities work better together. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.